Good afternoon, folks. I'm going to be doing another Stonescript tutorial today. This time I'm hoping to cover a few different things that I didn't cover last time. The main one is functions. I'm also going to cover imports and how to use those. And I'm also going to try to make a fast script. Last time I was mainly just showing techniques, showing how you structure your code, all that kind of stuff. This time I'm also going to cover some of the advanced tactics that speedrunners often use to try to make a fast script. So, let's get into it. First off, I actually prefer to use an external text editor than the Mindstone. Unfortunately, if you're on mobile, it's not easy to import files, but I'm on PC, so first off, I'm just going to type in anything, import nonsense, and you see a little button here. We're going to click that button. And this button has opened the file directory where all of our scripts are saved. You can see I've got a lot of trash here, but we're going to open up a new one. We're going to say new haunted. There we go. We're going to go back to here. Haunted. Okay, so let's open up our haunted script and then we'll start from there. So open that up. Now, before I get started, I want to do a brief explanation on functions. So, a function is a way to condense code, let's say. So, for example, I might just have a function called doStuff. Like that. It will say hi, and that's it. So, then I will call my function down here, doStuff, and we will see it print hi. So let's go over here, and you can see in the corner there it is indeed printing hi. But let's try a few other things. You can also return a value. So what you could do is you go return quote hi, and then what we can do is we can do print at. The reason you do the at symbol when you're doing printing is just to make sure that it executes it as code and not as a string. So now it still does the same thing basically, but now what's happening is we're returning a value. What I'll show you actually, if I go like this again, we'll just say doStuff. Now you'll notice I've put hi after return. So what will happen is it'll leave and this section of code won't get executed. Won't execute. So let's give that a try. As you can see, nothing is being printed. And that's because as soon as return occurs, everything below won't occur. But let's see things that we can do with this. Here's one example. Can use. Function can use. So this is a way of doing a shorthand check. I often use this line, particularly in the last one that I showed you guys, where you would check the cooldown of a weapon and check whether you can activate. This is just a quick shorthand method of doing so. So you can write a code, can use bardiche, then equip bardiche and activate R. So let's go here, and as you can see, he activated bardiche when we entered the location. But you can do a lot of other different things with it. Here's another shorthand. I don't know if I'm going to bother with this one specifically, but you could go like this. So instead of using this segment of code, you could even just go like this and just say bardiche. So if can use bardiche, use bardiche. Just one example. In range, this is another shorthand function. Uh, may or may not be useful to you. I personally like it, but obviously it's somewhat niche. Some people don't like the usage of functions so frivolously because they find it tends to make your code a little less readable because you have to sort of jump all over the script just to find out what things are doing. But my opinion is so long as you know what your functions are doing and have a good grasp on it, then it's not so bad. But this is an example where I can say if fo.distance, hang on, in range. If in range, fo.distance 11, 16. So if if I'm within range, if a foe is within the range of 11 to 16, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. So I can then say if can use bashing shield, the ID for it is just bash, then I'll say use. Actually, no, you don't activate. You just say equip. Equip bashing shield. And now let's do the same for dashing shield. I'll say else if. So let's try this one out. So as you can see, when the foe was within range, I immediately switched to a dashing shield. So that's just another example of a function. This is in fact what this function does. This is another shorthand function. I can go through it in a second for you. But basically, at the start of the function, I declare variable fd, which is just a shorthand for faux distance, just so I don't have to write it out so many times. But if faux distance is greater than 6 and I'm able to use quarterstaff, then it will attempt to use quarterstaff, and then it will return false. I'll show you why that's relevant in a second. Then it will, if that is not true, then it will attempt this one in range. If it's the same thing as this one, if you're within range of 11 to 16, then it will see whether or not it can dash or bash. If it can neither do dash or bash, then it will instead return true. And if one of those occurred, then what will happen is this function, this return, will end up returning false. And if neither this was true nor this was true, then this will return true. It can be a little bit confusing to get your head around, to figure out which return is going to trigger, but try to work through it in your head and see if it makes sense to you. So what I can do is I can do a function like this. If dash, then equip crossbow, we'll say. I don't know, we'll equip whatever. So the idea is that it will primarily attempt to dash, but if it can't dash, it will use the crossbow. So let's see how that works. Now you may have noticed he was initially standing at a distance there. That was because this will only trigger if we're within 16, and a crossbow has a range of 21. So if, for example, I changed this to Bardiche or something, he will approach them basically. So there you go. As soon as he has the option to move forward, he will do so. But I'm getting ahead of myself for now. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a very basic script, and then we're going to work with that and see how we can improve things. So let's fast forward through that. So, I've just made a very basic script here. I haven't done anything for phase 1 or phase 2 of the boss. We'll tackle that later. And there is also a mini boss. I'm going to be running Haunted Halls, and we're going to see how things go there. I'm only going to be running on the yellow stars, so let's give that a try. So you see it's working, but I think we can do things a lot quicker. So, first off, let's implement our dash function. Let's instead say, let's put that under its own, actually, go like that, press tab, and then we're going to say else if dash. So now, what it will do is it'll first attempt to dash, and then it'll do these functions. So let's see how that changes things. You can see things are a lot faster now. Now, our first obstacle, this boss here. So what I'm going to do, first off, I'm going to print the faux string. That's because people often get confused about what this guy is even called. So, here he is. A lot of different tags here. You've got Big Tomb, you've got Crypt Enemy 10, Aether, Unpushable, Spawner, Boss, Immune to Stun. So let's just use the big one, the first one, Big Tomb. So we're going to say, what we're actually going to do is we're going to set a variable when we encounter him. And that's specifically because he summons things in front of him. So you could sit there and say, if this particular foe is here, then do this trick. But as soon as one of his summons gets in the way, it's going to interrupt your script. So what we're going to do is we're going to say variable crypt alive equals false, and we're going to say if foe equals Big Tomb. So, yep. Then we're going to say crypt alive equals true, and we're going to also set another variable. We're going to say variable previous key res dot key, and we're going to say previous key equals res dot key. I'll show you why that's relevant in a second. So now what we're going to do, you notice I haven't put this in part of, this if statement isn't part of my regular block, but I'm also not equipping anything there, so it shouldn't be a problem. But we're going to take this variable, we're going to chuck it in there somewhere. I'm going to say yeah, else if crypt alive, then equip repeating crossbow. And we are going to have another condition which says if previous key is less than res dot key, then crypt alive equals false. So what you may or may not realize about the situation, when you kill a summoned creature, you don't get any key or XP from the kill. However, you do get key from killing the crypt. So this is a way of determining whether or not the crypt has been killed or not, if your key has increased. So let's run that and see how that functions. There we go. So as you can see there, he immediately used the repeating crossbow up until the point that we killed it. So let's get rid of the faux tag now. Now we're up to phase 1. Let's just do something simple for now. We're going to say if dash equip L Samir. That's just my name tagged Vigor Sword. And equip our Vigor Sword minus D. I'm doing minus DL specifically because sometimes it picks up on my lifesteal sword. So let's have a look at that. Now, I want to use another fancy technique here. We are going to say if AI dot paused, we're going to try and get some sneaky strikes off. We're going to say if can use quarterstaff, use quarterstaff. Then we're going to say else if foe dot distance is less than 12, then and can use Bardiche, then use Bardiche. And now we're also going to say else if. I'm actually going to say Bardiche shiny because I've got multiple copies of Bardiches. We're also going to say else if can use actually no, we're not going to do that one yet because we haven't got proper interruptions. So let's just run that and see how that goes for now. So, as you can see, we got a sneaky strike off while he was still in between phases. And that's because you can normally activate items even during cutscenes. So, yeah, we got an extra bit of damage off early and managed to kill him for free like that. But there's a lot of things we can do differently. First off, let's look over here. This function part here. If photo distance is greater than 23, let's add in an additional condition. We're going to say if can use quarterstaff, then use quarterstaff. Normally, I would try to make sure you're not interrupting the ability, but quarterstaff is unique in the sense that you can actually use the ability and change weapons within the same frame. So now, you see that it saves a bit of time because now we're using quarterstaff whenever possible. And we are going to do another interesting trick. We're going to use a trick called AAC, Auto Attack Cancelling. Oh no, Attack Animation Cancellation. That's the term. So you're going to say if item dot left dot state equals 3. You're going to say equip L. Now we're just going to pick any old trash item. So let's just say star 0 star wand. Or actually, let's pick something that everyone's basically guaranteed to have. So let's say star. Equip the star stone, and then we go equip L item dot left. So the idea is when you hit state 3, which is the state when you cast the attack, as soon as the attack lands, that's state 3, and you can skip that phase of the attack entirely. So as soon as that occurs, you'll equip something else in your left hand, and then you'll equip your original weapon back into your left hand. And then we're going to do it the same thing for your right hand. However, there is a slight difference I'm going to make here. So let's go right, equip R. Let's do a different item. Let's say fissure. Let's go with that. Now, I'm not going to go equip R. I'm actually going to go equip. And the reason I'm doing that is because we have two-handed weapons, and you can only equip two-handed weapons with the equip command. So, we got that. And now, we have attack animation cancellation. So you'll notice we'll attack a heck of a lot faster now. Or you might notice. It can be quite subtle sometimes, depending on the weapon. Also going to change this up. I'm going to add that and say else that, just so we're equipping the correct thing. So that's fairly efficient, but we can do a lot better than that. For starters, we could potentially utilize the talisman. There are a lot of different summons we could potentially be using. There's also our potion slot. You'll notice quite often a lot of speedrunners will often use potions, and that's because it can make a quite substantial impact on your average DPS. I'm going to use Berserk Potion. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and use a tactic known as Permapot. So, where's my mask? So, some of you may or may not have used a cultist mask before, but this particular enchant here is the one we're looking at. Your oldest buff persists longer by gaining a frame every frame. You have to have this one at plus 21 in order to get the full benefit of it. Otherwise, it's not particularly helpful. Now, the reason why this is quite powerful is because when you use the when you use the mask, it doesn't just increase the current duration, it also increases the max duration. So say, for example, you have a potion that has 300 frames. You drink the potion. Alright, so 300 frames, that's your current, let's say that's your current, and that's your maximum duration. Let's kill him for a second. So, your current and maximum duration. Every frame that you hold the thing, it will increase both. So, this will increase by 1, but then it'll count down by 1. So, that'll stay relatively the same. But this will increase every frame. And so, eventually, after you've held it for, a whole run, it might be about 2,000. So, that'll be your potion buff will say that it's 300 currently and 2,000 at max. Now, the way that buffs and debuffs apply in this game for everything, this is not just for potions, it's also debuffs and everything, is that when you apply an additional stack of a buff or potion and it exceeds the maximum. So there are certain buffs and things that can have multiple stacks. For example, Chill can go up to 6 stacks, but once it exceeds the maximum stack, it will look at the oldest copy of that buff or debuff, and it will refresh it to its maximum duration. So what does that mean in this case? If we drink our potion after having held it for 2,000 frames or so, it won't go back up to 300, it will go back up to 2,000. So we'll have a potion effect that is 2,000 out of 2,000. Just a random number. The point is that you can basically extend the duration of a potion to the duration of an entire run. And so you can effectively benefit from a potion constantly. It's quite a powerful effect, especially because some of these potions deal, you know, add a quite substantial amount to your average damage. But it does also mean you have to utilize it somehow. And you often have a setup round, which can also be challenging because you effectively have to use two different strategies. So let's have a look and see how that would go. What we can potentially do is we can set a variable. We can say variable loops. Actually, no. Let's not. Let's just say if buffs dot get get time. You get time. Buffs dot get time. Berserk. Actually, let's print for a second. Let's just print off this our buffs string, just so you have an idea of what we're working with. Right now, I don't have any buffs. Dot string. That's what it is. Yeah, buffs dot string. Right now, I don't have any buffs, but I'm going to drink this potion, and then we can have a look. So we have Berserk. That's the icon. That's the name of it, Berserk. We have the stack. It's got one stack, and that's how many frames it has left. 286, and it's rapidly counting down. So we're going to say if get time Berserk is less than, let's say, 300 or so, we're going to say equip mask. Actually, let's put this over here. Oh no, that's fine. And we'll go else. So the idea is that hopefully it will follow this if we're running low. We're going to say equip R mask, equip L vigor wand. Let's just see how that goes. So now you can see that our Berserk potion is remaining constant. Oh, it's using the reset wand. Ah, okay. Well, I don't really want that. Let's say minus reset. Surely I've got a better one than that, don't I? Oh, there we go. It's using the lifesteal wand. That's good enough for now. So you can see that I'm attacking very fast now, and I can do so constantly. We're also going to write another condition. We're going to say if item.potion is not empty, then activate P. So that way it'll hopefully activate our potion automatically. So let's see how that plays out. So, as you can see, we'll see it in a second again. There you go. As you can see, our potion buff is now over 2,500. So now you'll notice we're going a hell of a lot faster. And we don't have to even drink the potion. I think in that situation, you notice that the Bardiche didn't activate. That was because we were too close. No, sorry, not close enough. I meant to say, we weren't close enough. And normally it would activate Quarterstaff to get a bit closer, but it was not off cooldown yet. So that's why that didn't trigger. Perhaps what we could do is we could try to make sure that the quarterstaff is available so that we can have that dash. So for phase 2, for phase 1, instead of using dash, let's just take this section, or let's make a copy of the dash function. Whoops. Dash 2. We're just going to call it dash 2, and we're going to get rid of the quarterstaff. And that is just because I don't want to use the quarterstaff in this particular situation, because I want to save the quarterstaff for later. So dash 2, and we'll see how that plays out. But I want to be able to use the the Bardiche when the opportunity presents itself. So, as you can see, we were able to use our Bardiche that time, and we didn't have to have it interrupted. So that's a lot better, but we can do better. There are other tricks that we can use. For one, we can also use Heavy Hammer. Now, to do that, we're going to actually have to have some proper interruption script methodology going on, because if I just go like this, duplicate, oops, duplicate, what will happen is if I try and do that, then this ability will effectively end up interrupting this ability. So we're going to use a script that I made. This script is actually available for use. It's in the base game now, so it's called click abilities. So import click abilities. We're gonna save it to a variable. So variable ca equals import UI/click abilities. This means that we can call upon various different functions of the script on demand when we want to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything I've written, take it all, grab it all. I'm going to hit tab. So now it's all indented by 2. And we're going to say if ca dot run, I'm going to go no display. There are 2 options. You can either go ca run no display or ca run. It doesn't make a huge difference which one you choose. The only difference is that it will either run a display or not. So instead of doing let's actually go to our use function. Use, instead of doing this, let's say ca actually never mind. Go to our use function. We're going to say ca dot use r. Let's actually open up the click abilities function, just so we can have a look at what we're dealing with here. So click abilities. So here's this little example segment of code that I've run here. You can see I've done run there, but we have a lot of different commands that you can run. Bash reset plague. So here's what I want. Use R and use L. I've got a few different aliases like ham or bard or acrobat. That's just because they have to map to button usages. We're not going to go too deep into that. These are the 2 functions that we're looking at specifically. Use L and use R. When you invoke the script to do this, it will automatically check whether or not you're going to interrupt the item. So we're just going to say use whip. And now this should hopefully Um, Quarterstaff doesn't actually need it, but we're going to go with it for now anyway. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to say, because like I said, Quarterstaff can't be interrupted, so let's actually just equip Quarterstaff, activate Quarterstaff. Hopefully this isn't getting too complicated for you guys. And we're going to say this one as well. Oh, and bash. We don't need to use. You don't need to activate bash. You just equip. Why did I do? Why did I try and activate it? It doesn't make a difference. Just equip a bashing shield. Okay. So, let's see how that works. I thought I said no display, didn't I? Let's hit leave and see if that's still... there we go, the display seems to have gone. We're doing a setup run now though because we've lost our buff, so... Oh. So, I'll see you in a bit. See, now you can see that we used both the hammer and the bardiche, which gives us a little extra damage. I'm going to check which which hammer I have actually, because I've got multiple copies of everything. I probably used that one, which is not the ideal one. I think I've got another one called the Damn Ham or something. Yeah, it is the Damn Ham. That one's got damage. Does it not? Oh, it's only a single enchant. But we only need the damage anyway, so let's come over here. Instead of saying use heavy hammer, let's just say use damn ham. Yeah. But let's also utilize some other things. So, back to here. We're also going to say else if summon dot count equals 0. Oops, I've done comma. Summon dot count equals 0. We're going to say use talisman. So, hopefully, oh, what have I done? Oh, yeah, okay. Now I have to, now I do actually have to have interruption script. So we'll say else. There we go. And we'll also say and can use. I always forget if it's fire talisman or talisman fire. So let's actually open up the manual. The manual is quite a helpful tool actually. You can get a lot of information here. You can see talisman 8, so they do talisman first. Talisman fire. That's what we needed to know. So instead of fire talisman, talisman fire. Yeah, let's see how that changes things. There we go. There's one last technique that I want to add to my script. See, if you've been around the Discord, you may be aware of certain sequences that you can do to get better attack speed. So the terms that they use are moon dialing or moon juggling. I can show you a picture. You're probably looking at a picture right now that shows you a number of different sequences. Basically, because we're using Berserk Potion and we're using short swords, I'll show you the short swords. So we're using Chrysamere, which has critical strike and damage enchanted, and elemental damage enchanted, and my other short sword over here is the same deal. So we can do a technique referred to as moon juggling. So we're going to make a function for it. Where are we? Let's close click abilities. We're going to make another function. This function is going to be called moon juggle. We're going to say whip 1 and whip 2. We're just going to keep it simple for now. We're going to say if total time modulus 4 equals 0. Oops, not that many. 1, 2, 3. On the first frame, you're going to say equip L whip 1. Actually, now let's go whip 2. And whip 1. Then on the second frame, dial. And then we're basically going to do the same thing, except in reverse. C whip 2 and whip 1, and then weapon 2 and dial. So this is just a very basic implementation, but this is a 4-frame sequence, and hopefully if I've done it all correctly, it will function for what I want to do. So phase 1, let's come over here. Let's go moon juggle variable 1, and we're going to say Chrysamere, quote quote, that, and vigor sword, quote quote, that. And then let's get rid of these two. Then we're going to come over here and do the same over here. So let's run the script. It'll take like I said, we have to do a setup round now, so we'll speed through that one, and then we'll see how it all performs. So, as you can see, that was a lot faster than just attacking regularly. Anyway, I think I've covered most of the basic stuff now. If I think of anything else, I'll edit this video later and add it back in. Thank you very much for watching.